Listo, a ver, vamos a ver, ahora estoy mirando, probando, sí. No, tengo frío.
Pronto.
Hola Ana, hola Denise,
Hola.
Hola,
Valentina, hola Walter, Douglas Bike, hola Walter.
hola,
Bueno,
buenas tardes.
yo los dejo organizar, yo estoy preparando almuerzo. Preparando, sí, la familia tiene que comer, family needs to eat. So I'm going to be connected with the earphone, so let me know. Okay.
Douglas, acho que você precisa habilitar os canais também, né?
Sim, tô abrindo aqui.
Ah, tá bom, desculpa.
Porque aí se o Walter quiser fazer o teste, né? Era melhor, acho que esperar o Luiz também, né? Walter?
Hola, no te entiendo.
Oh, mi español es muy bueno, Walter. No digas que no me entiendes.
¿Estabas hablando en portugués o no?
Oh, bien. Entonces sí.
Eso me pareció. ¿Me preguntabas?
Y si es mejor hacer allá la prueba de los canales de traducción o si es mejor esperar un poco hasta que llegue Luis.
Bueno, conmigo podremos ir haciendo la prueba para ir
Ujú.
avanzando y él está conectado, se supone que ya, pero podremos hacer la prueba conmigo.
Claro, claro.
Se cadastrou antes, Silvia?
Cadastrei.
Os dois estão aparecendo aqui como not joined. Então, eu vou cadastrar o Walter que está aqui novamente.
Cadastrei e a gente fez a prova com esse link, sabe, Douglas? Pode ser que quando eu passei o co-host, alguma coisa alterou.
Não tem problema, eu vou colocar aqui. Walter vai traduzir em inglês
Do
para
espanhol.
espanhol, né?
Sim. Vou colocar a Fernanda para dentro, tá, gente?
Yo me conecté con dos dispositivos.
Sim.
El que necesita traducción es este del que estoy hablando en este momento, porque el otro es solo para, digamos, como backup, pero no requiere de los canales de traducción.
Ah, está bien. Douglas, você conseguiu entender?
Só tenho dúvida porque tá com o mesmo nome, eu não consigo diferenciar. Quer fazer um teste agora?
Eu vou para o canal em espanhol, então. Eu vou para o canal em espanhol, Walter, para fazermos um teste e verificarmos se está todo correto, ¿ok?
Perfecto, ya entonces activo.
Ana.
Perfeito.
Sí, escucho muy bien. Buenas tardes, Fernanda.
Buenas tardes a todos y todas. ¿Cómo están?
Muy bien.
Muy bien.
Estamos haciendo el test de la prueba de traducción. A ver.
Silvia, no teste você explicou que a gente ia fazer aquele textinho antes só para explicar como que as pessoas conectam?
Sim.
Tá, então
Mas
beleza.
vou repassar com o Walter. Walter, solo para que tengamos claro, haremos una habla cuando empiece la charla
que eu falo?
en 3 lenguas para que las personas salgan como así para accionar la traducción simultánea, ¿sí? Entonces,
Silvia.
Ana hará la habla cuando empiece. Sí, Mari.
Hola Fernanda. Just one suggestion. I think it's better to communicate in English with Walter, maybe, in order to he can understand maybe everybody in English, and also with Luis. Just a suggestion. I don't know if it's better for everybody in this group.
So I will speak in English as Mary asked Walter. So when our course begins, Anna will speak in the 3 languages to the people, to the attendants, how to access the channel to the translation. I don't know if it was,
He's already in the Spanish Club channel.
Ah, ok. Por isso que eu não escuto.
Yeah.
I will speak in Portuguese, English, and Spanish. This is just telling people go to the bottom line and choose the language you want to listen. It's just a small talk, okay? When everyone is admitted.
Ana, não se esquece de mencionar que tem que mutar, né, o som original. E aí eu vou fazer aquela apresentação inicial em inglês, tá? Estou aqui de olho nas pessoas, mas até agora...
Ok, se eu é em inglês, porque aí a gente já vai estar todo mundo nos canais corretos.
Tá ótimo.
Eu estou aqui, I'm here as an intruder. I'm just waiting for the mini course to start. My translation device is off, so I'm not listening. But if you need my help to try any of these channels, please just say if I can be of any help.
Thank you, Fernanda. Just waiting for Luis, the second translator. And then we will need someone to listen to the Portuguese channel just to see if there is... Okay, Luis arrived, so I'm admitting him.
I'll be in Portuguese channel, okay.
Thank you. Luis, good afternoon.
And also here just to help also as a student. I'd like to also thank you, Generas or Generas Núcleo Generas. Thank you. You're wonderful people. Son todos excelentes. I'm just here to learn from it and also to help in any way.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Luis. I'm glad to see you here. This is the day, the D-Day.
Yeah. Silvia,
Okay.
eu estou tentando entrar com outro computador, mas eu gostaria que nesse aqui que estamos falando,
Sim.
não me assinem como tradutor, mas não estou conseguindo entrar no outro, que o outro é mais potente, tem melhor velocidade. Então, estou tentando ingressar, mas não dá. Então,
O que aparece, Luiz? Desculpa. Aqui é a Ana falando.
Olha, aparece... Não, fica aí quieto, fica assim... Vou tentar de novo, mas já consegui com um.
Tá bem. Vamos ver se
Vou
consegue.
tentar com outro.
Autorizar dos
que
veces a Luis
acontece.
también.
O Ives chegou também, então eu vou admitir o Ives, tá, gente?
Ok.
Fernanda,
Então,
você me escuta? Ele ainda não está assignado como tradutor, acho que é por isso, tá?
So, good afternoon, Eve.
Okay. I'm here, but I don't. Oh,
hello, Eve.
How are you doing, Eve?
okay.
Now I see you.
Is everything under control? Do you hear me?
Hello, Eve. Yes, we can hear you.
Good. Okay, great.
Hello.
How are you?
We are trying to be good. We do our best. Although yesterday the government here announced steps towards normal life during the summer. So I think by the end of August, things should be relatively back to what it was before, except in a few areas. In terms of vaccination, we are doing very good. As a matter of fact, I think that we are in the process of being above the United States in terms of the proportion of the population who got vaccinated.
That's very good news.
Yes. What about you? How is it going?
Not enough yet.
Oh,
18%, the first dose, 18% of the population with the first dose.
18.
Yes, and only 10% with 2 doses.
Okay. Okay. Mm.
It was my internet. I don't know.
Yes, you froze. But I guess it's perhaps we were discussing COVID.
Yes, maybe.
And COVID has many ramifications. So
Yeah.
So,
It might be the case.
It's
Just
a
to see, we need to test our simultaneous translation channels.
mhm.
So we have two translators here. Walter will do the translation to Spanish, and Luis will do the translation to Portuguese.
Yes. Okay.
If you could speak, please, then we will try to, Fernanda will listen to the channel in Portuguese, and Nanda will listen to the channel in Spanish, so that we can assure that all is working perfectly.
Mhm. Okay. Good
but
afternoon. I will try to speak slowly, more slowly than usual, in order to facilitate life of the translators. What would I say? Regarding the weather, well, here it's summertime, which is very good. It does not last long, so we tend to enjoy each day. I think it's plus 22 outside, sunny, perfect weather. Mm. So Portuguese not working.
I think the channels are off. Hello, it's Mary.
Yes.
Hello. I think the channels are off. Can you check, Douglas? Or I don't know who is in charge of the channels.
Yeah, the channels are ready, but Luis is trying to connect with another device, as far as I
Okay.
understood. So we are waiting
Okay.
for Luis now. But the channels are ready to go.
Already? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I was checking the Portuguese channel and I connected to the Spanish channel, but maybe in the moment that I switched to the Spanish channel was off, was mute. I don't know why. But let's wait for Luis. Luis, do you have any other issues to connect?
No, I just was only able to connect in one device. So I'll try to do it without any backup because in the other one was not possible.
Do you need any help from us? Can you try again, maybe?
Yeah, I'm trying again, but anyway, I'll do it just with one computer, right?
Okay, you're gonna use this computer, the connection you are using now. Is that correct, Luis?
Sorry?
Are you gonna use this device, the device you are using?
Yes,
right?
I have to do it. Yes, I have to do it.
Okay, I already assigned you as an interpreter from
I'm going
English
to
to
accept.
Portuguese, and then if you could accept it, we are gonna test, okay?
Yeah, accept it.
Okay, great. So can you say a few words, please?
A few words again? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we learned yesterday that universities and colleges in Quebec at the beginning of September will be business as usual, in the sense that students will have in-person courses, which is just unbelievable. So it was really good news to hear. In terms of the mask, I think at the same time, around the end of August, we will be able to forget the mask, except in public transportations and a few other areas. So some progress is being made, but we need to remember that in Quebec, we were deeply affected during the first wave, where we had, I think, something like 7,000 deaths, which is huge for a population of 8 million. So how does it sound?
So Spanish is working and Portuguese is not working. So we will need to try again. If Spanish
Yes.
is okay, it's perfectly, but Portuguese is not working.
Luis,
Okay.
did you accept when I assigned you as an interpreter to Portuguese, Luis? Can you please confirm?
Douglas, would you like to try to assign it to me, maybe just to see if it's the connection
Yeah,
or the procedure, something like that?
yeah. I will try to assign you alternatively. Hold on. Yeah, assigning you.
Oops, I feel that Fernanda speaks, but I don't hear you. So you're supposed to be the translator now, to play the translator?
Yeah.
Yes.
I assigned her as a translator to Portuguese. Sorry.
Okay. You seem quite comfortable in doing this, Fernanda. I don't hear you, but it's very nice to see you doing this.
Okay, so I will bring her back now.
Okay.
Fernanda, I'm listening to the Portuguese channel. I
Okay.
can listen to Fernanda on the Portuguese channel.
Yeah, so the channel is
The channel is
working.
working.
Yeah.
Yes, it was working.
Luis, can
Now the
you
Portuguese,
try it again? Can you try the test again? So
now the Portuguese channel is disappeared.
yeah, I'm assigning the Portuguese channel again to Luis. Luis, can you please accept the invitation, and can we try it again? I can see Sylvia waving. Oh yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah,
Okay.
Portuguese channel
Okay.
is working now.
Yeah. Okay. Ready to go.
Yeah, it's impressive, the logistics behind this. Wow.
So we will admit all the people that are waiting. We have
I
40,
think it's working.
44. Excuse me, Mari. Go, please. So we will admit all the people.
People from Colombia is writing to my WhatsApp.
So, but we will admit the people that are waiting. I will do some, we will share information about the channels, so the people to know how to access the channels of simultaneous translation. And then I will greet them all and pass the word to Eve. So
Okay.
this is our plan.
Okay, and you will please make sure that I will be able to share my screen.
So please, Douglas, could you assign co-host to Eve, please?
Okay, I think it's done now.
Yeah, it's done now. If can You can now share your screen.
So I thought
But
it
you make it the host. Is that okay?
Yeah, you see something? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
great,
it's working.
great. Okay, so I stop. Okay, good.
I will be mute from now. Bye-bye.
Everything is ready. So we have now 48 people waiting. I will admit them all. So Douglas, if you want to share the...
Sorry, Sylvia, I'm not the host anymore. I don't know what happened.
Douglas, você passou o host para o Ives. Ele precisa te devolver.
Yeah, I think it needs to assign the host role to Douglas again.
Okay, so how will I be able to do that?
Yes, you are able to do that. It's just you have to use your mouse to and point out the Douglas name in the participant column and just assign Douglas as a host.
Okay, just a
I
second.
think Douglas, you can explain to it how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the bottom of your screen, you can see the participants button. Oh, yeah.
This is good?
Okay.
You did it. Yeah, perfect.
Yes, we are now co-host.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Eve.
Okay.
So I think we have everyone here. So it seems we have a problem with the simultaneous translation. So just a minute. We are checking. I think that every time that we, so just a minute.
Sim, eu escuto em português, tá ótimo.
Hi, thank you, thank you. So, and also in Spanish, it's working, just a minute. So to us to check also the Spanish simultaneous translator channel. And the Spanish too, it's working. So, okay.
So can we start, Sylvia?
Please,
Yes.
Anna.
Okay. Let me just open here. Bom, bom dia, boa tarde a todos e todas. Eu vou dar alguns recados de como vocês devem escolher o canal correto, e esse recado vai ser nas 3 línguas, então peço um pouquinho de paciência, tá? Hello, everyone. Before we officially start the event, I will explain how you should choose the channel for the translation. And this message, I will repeat it in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, so I ask for a little patience. Hola a todos y todas. Antes de comenzar oficialmente el evento, voy a explicarles cómo se debe elegir al canal de la traducción. Este mensaje lo voy a repetirlo en portugués, español, en inglés, y por lo tanto pido un poquito de paciencia. As we all know, the event will be held in English and with simultaneous translation to Spanish and to Portuguese. There's a bar below that you can see a small globe, and there it's written interpretation. If you click there, you can choose the language you want to hear the event, okay? So if you choose the channel English, you will listen everything in English, in Portuguese, and Spanish is Spanish, okay? Just one more thing, you have to mute the original audio, so the experience here will be better for you, okay? Okay, let's go for español. El evento se brindará en inglés con traducción simultánea en español y al portugués. Hay una barra abajo que tiene interpretación y ustedes deben elegir en qué idioma quieren escuchar la charla. Si haga clic en el globo y vas a ver inglés, portugués y español. Si eliges español, va a escuchar todo en español. Si eliges portugués, va a escuchar todo en portugués. Y si eliges inglés, va a escuchar todo en inglés. Es importante que también hagan el mute original audio, porque la experiencia en la charla va a ser mejor para ustedes, ¿ok? Bom, vou lembrar a todo mundo que o evento vai ser em inglês, né? E vocês podem escolher em que idioma vocês vão escutar, inglês, português ou espanhol. Na barrinha de baixo aqui do Zoom tem um pequeno globo escrito interpretação ou interpretation. E se vocês clicarem nele, vai ter a opção de línguas. Então, se vocês escolherem inglês, vocês vão escutar tudo em inglês. Se vocês clicarem em português, vocês vão escutar tudo em português. E se vocês escolherem o espanhol, vão escutar tudo em espanhol. É importante que vocês escolham um canal e também que mutem o áudio original, que é a opção de baixo, porque isso vai melhorar a experiência de vocês, ok? So, now it's Silvia time.
Thank you, Ana. I will switch to English so that you have time to assess the channel, the proper channel. And also, we will be assured that everyone has the translation. So, switching to English, my name is Silvia Casanova. I'm a researcher professor at the University of São Paulo, and also a part of the QRCA organizing team. It's a pleasure to be here and to start our second initiative in the QRCA network this year with this mini course on qualitative research on accounting. I want to share some information with you, so I will ask Douglas to advance our slide so that you can see how many we are and from where. We have here 176 registration from 14 countries. So we are very happy at ENG, a multicultural and multilingual community forming and building bridges. I would also to take this opportunity to emphasize the importance of this initiative. We intend to support the consolidation of a research network in Latin America, and this mini course is part of it. We already have other events planned to happen, so please stay attentive and share information with your colleagues. Another important point is that this is a collaboratively built research community, so we need hands and heads to make it possible. Those who want to join efforts are invited to do it first by engaging in our website. I will share with you in our chat the link to our website. Second, the call for papers for our fourth QRCA conference will open June 1st. You can submit master and PhD projects, working papers, and full papers. The call is available on the QRCA network website and also at the Critical Perspectives on Accounting Journal website. I'm also adding the links in our chat box for both. Third, for this mini course we want to remind you all that preferably use the chat to share your questions in which language you feel more comfortable with. If you pose your questions in Spanish or Portuguese, we will translate using DeepL, a free translation tool. We have a second session on June 16 at 3 p.m. Brazilian time and 1 p.m. Colombian time. This mini course will be presented by Professor Yves Gendron. I will introduce to you all Professor Yves Gendron. Professor Yves Gendron is full professor of accounting at Université Laval in Quebec City. Yves is highly committed to qualitative research. One of his main endeavors as qualitative researcher is to better understand key features of public accountants' daily lives, such as how they make decisions in action or how they go through difficult and stressful situations. In 2019, the Canadian Academic Accounting Association awarded Yves with the Ham Falco Award for Distinguished Contribution in Accounting Thought. Yves is currently co-editor for Critical Perspectives on Accounting and associate editor at Contemporary Accounting Research. With no more delay, and hoping that everyone find the proper channel to follow Yves' works, I invite Professor Yves Gendron to begin the session, expressing our gratitude to him and also to everyone who is attending this mini course. Muchas gracias, muito obrigada, thank you all, merci.
Merci beaucoup, Sylvia. Boa tarde, buenas tardes. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon in doing something which is quite unusual to me, which is to give a mini course in front of more than 100 persons on Zoom. This is something which I never did before. As a result of COVID, we innovate. So the aims that we will strive to meet this afternoon, there are many, but I identified three main aims. First of all, through this mini course, indirectly, we make participants aware of the QRCA network, which is a platform, a network, which we think will be very important for qualitative researchers working in Latin America or being interested in Latin America. So try to do your best to promote the network and help the network grow. We need your help for that. Also, making participants aware of the variety of qualitative research. So I start with the assumption that the majority of people are not experts in qualitative research and would like to learn more about the different types of qualitative research. So this is one of my main aims. And finally, I hope that through this mini course, some people might decide to become qualitative researchers. So perhaps securing or making their commitment stronger. So this is my ultimate aim. Okay, so a few words on me. Okay, so as Sylvia mentioned, I'm a qualitative researcher, but of a special breed in the sense that during my PhD, most courses that I followed were quantitative. But I went away from this world, which was not sufficiently interesting to me, and I instead wrote a dissertation based on qualitative research. And what I'm going to talk about this afternoon, basically, I discovered it mostly after my PhD, and I would have benefited extensively if I had the knowledge to which you will be exposed this afternoon and in June. Okay, still a few words on me. But this is something perhaps quite important. When I finished my PhD, my first academic job was at the University of Alberta. Alberta is a province in Canada, an English-speaking province. So this is where I had my first position. It's a university which is very well recognized in North America. And the criteria in order to get tenure or to get promoted, if you want, and not to be laid off, not to be fired, are very high. So it's a typical North American system of publish or perish. So when I was hired there, I was not sure why they decided to hire me, because at the time I had no publications. I was quite fragile because my PhD was not a peaceful one. So I got an offer from them, but I was aware of their tenure criteria, which was basically to publish at least 2 articles in one of the top 5 English-speaking journals. Which is not obvious for a qualitative researcher, because out of those 5, there are 3 which are US-based, and at the time they were basically close to qualitative research. So I could, in a rational way, have decided to engage with quantitative research in order to maximize my likelihood of publishing in these top journals. But I have decided not to do that. So I committed to qualitative research, ready to accept the risk of not meeting, of not publishing enough and being fired at the end. But I was really committed as a qualitative researcher. I stayed my course and I succeeded in publishing qualitative research in top journals. Through that, it shows basically that qualitative research, one of the strengths of qualitative research is the ability to innovate, or at least to develop innovative claims. And so my first publications in AOS and CAR were not that difficult to achieve. After my thesis, I had more difficulties, but the papers which were in my dissertation were accepted on the 3rd or 4th one, something like this, and they were basically quite well received. Okay, I'm currently co-editor of Critical Perspectives on Accounting and associate editor at Contemporary Accounting Research, which means that I spend a significant portion of my time in assessing and evaluating others' work. So instead of writing my own papers, basically, quite often, 2 or 3 days a week, while I evaluate other people's work, people who wish to publish in these 2 journals. What I evaluate is qualitative research. So I'm in the process of becoming an expert in evaluating qualitative research. So what I'm going to say today and next month is basically the outcome of significant evaluation experience. Okay. So this takes place on Zoom, and for some reason, since the beginning of COVID, I try to avoid PowerPoint because I do it in my own courses at Laval University, and I'm fed up with using PowerPoint on Zoom, so I try to avoid it. And so this is what I will do today. So I will talk, and I will also put on screen the two articles I'm going to talk about this afternoon. So we will have, I will emphasize some aspects of Power and Gendron and of Bills et al. The aim being to make people aware of the key differences between different types of qualitative research. Okay, so let us proceed. Oh, if you have questions, some people sent me questions and I will look at them later this afternoon. If you have a question when I speak, the best way to ask the question is on the chat button, but I will be unable to look at the chat and speak at the same time. Okay, so if one of the co-organizers could eventually, well, tell me if you have 2 or 3 questions, okay, and then I will answer. Okay, so you use, as Sylvia indicated, you use the chat to share your questions. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, I will share, first of all, Power and Gendron. I think it's here. Okay, not this one, but this one. Okay, so currently you should see on screen the first page of Power and Gendron. Okay. If not, well, shout or do something. Okay, first of all, about the context in which we wrote this. Okay, I think it's an important piece. Qualitative research in accounting, at least in North America, until the 1990s was quite underdeveloped, especially in the US, but also to some extent in Canada. So a number of people were doing this type of work, but not that many. And around 2011 or 12, the then editor of this journal, editing a journal of practice and theory, a GPT, Robert Nicol, contacted Michael Power and me in order to see if we would be interested in overseeing the development of a special forum or special issue on qualitative research in this journal. Okay, but so this may seem trivial, but it's not. AJPT is, in the eyes of many Americans, scholars, accounting scholars, AJPT is viewed as an A- journal. Okay, so it's not the same as the Accounting Review, but just below. So it's a significant journal. And not many people before 2015, not many people were able to publish qualitative research in that journal. Okay, so I published one article in AGPT in 2004, and it was the first qualitative article to be published in that journal. So Robert Nichol is a very eclectic researcher. So he's basically a mainstream person interested in behavioral research, but with lots of research interests. For some reason, he's one of the few Americans who likes to travel outside of the USA. And I met him a few times before that at the EAA, the European Accounting Association Congress in Europe each year. So Robert was going there each year. And this is where I met him. I talked to him. So he knew me. I knew him. He knew Michael Power. Okay. And so Robert contacted us and immediately I felt that this was something important, and we, Michael and I have decided to do it. Okay, so we developed a call for papers, we received submissions, ultimately 3 articles were accepted. Okay, so they were published in this issue of the journal, May 2015. The 3 articles which we have accepted are interpretive research in terms of paradigm. They're interpretive research, not positivist, which is a big step for the journal. And we needed to write an editorial. Okay, and basically I had the idea of writing a kind of roadmap in order to explain people, the LGBT reader who knows about nothing about qualitative research, what is qualitative research and what are the different types of qualitative research. So the idea being to provide a roadmap in order to make sense of this strange word to them. The disciplinary focus is on auditing, but it's quite easy to rely on this guest editorial in order to, it's easy to extrapolate it to the world of financial accounting research, of tax research, or, because basically the paradigms are the same no matter what the discipline is. So if you're in financial accounting, and you do qualitative research, what I'm going to say this afternoon applies directly to you. Same thing if you do tax. But the emphasis of the editorial was auditing because of the journal. Okay, so that's why the examples we provide relate to the auditing literature. Okay, and this was published in 2015, and since then the guest editorial was cited significantly. So, which is an indication that it played a significant role in orienting people regarding qualitative research. Okay. So, what I will do, I will comment some parts of the guest editorial, having the time, I'm aware of the timing, so it's 2 or 3:28, depending on your time zone. Okay, so I will try to manage. Okay, so we begin the guest editorial by citing Anthony Hopwood, who has played a key role in founding the Journal Accounting Organizations and Society in 1976, which implies that before 1976, there was, well, qualitative research was quite underdeveloped, at least in the English-speaking world of accounting research. Okay, there was some, but there was no journal specifically devoted to that. So Anthony Hopwood started the journal in 1976. The idea being for AOS to become a chief reference point for accounting researchers interested in qualitative understandings. Okay, so in 1979, he wrote an editorial where there's one sentence here, which basically is important to understand, well, the potential of qualitative research in the eyes of accounting researchers, generally speaking. Okay, so without research oriented toward describing and understanding accounting systems in action, so in other words, qualitative research, well, I feel the behavioral and organization study of accounting will increasingly exist in a void. So if qualitative research is not there to develop grounded understandings of what takes place in practice, then the other researchers, behavioral researchers, archival researchers, well, risk developing research on something which is not grounded to reality, which is not grounded to practice. So in the mind of Anthony Hopwood, qualitative research had a huge potential to play in developing grounded understandings of the world of accounting. Okay, so we thought it would be useful to start the guest editorial this way. Okay, some other aspects that I want to emphasize, such insight. Okay, and qualitative research could be useful to quantitative research. Okay, yes. So when a lot of people use the word exploring, so qualitative research has an ability to explore a kind of virgin territory. And then afterwards, archival researchers, behavioral researchers will get involved in developing other types of knowledge on what takes place in this territory, so exploration. But it would be a mistake to conclude that qualitative research is just that, exploration. It's much more important than just exploration. We don't have to rely or to wait on quantitative researchers to use our results or findings. Qualitative research has its own criteria of what is good research, has its own journals, has its own readership. So it's good if quantitative researchers will read us, but we are not reliant on their involvement in order to have a legitimate field. So we're able by ourselves to legitimize us. Okay, so that's what I want to emphasize here. Okay, so this is what I mentioned. What qualitative researchers especially try to avoid is the risk of being constrained or seeing things in a narrow way when looking at data. Qualitative researchers tend to emphasize flexibility, being open to the unexpected. One may start the project with a given objective, and then in the middle of the data collection, that person finds that it's not really, my first idea is not really interesting, but in the data that I have gathered until now, this theme is really fascinating. So I will change my focus. Okay, so qualitative researchers should have this kind of attitude. not being close-minded. Okay, so let me continue. Okay, so what we wanted to do is to promote a kind of multiculturalism of methods. Okay, so in other words, fostering what we were trying to foster a broad view that it makes sense to be rich in terms of a diversity of research methods. So in other words, it's a big mistake to think that we are able to understand a complex phenomenon such as accounting through one single research approach. So if everyone suddenly decides to do structural equation modeling, well, then the research community will be very good at doing this, okay? But, well, they would then put all their eggs in the same basket. So that would be a mistake, an epistemological mistake. So there are good reasons to embrace research diversity in terms of methods, in terms of theory, etc. Okay, qualitative research is diverse. So this is what I emphasize here. It's diverse, it's fragmented. Fragmentation means that there are complex relationships within the world of qualitative research. Conflicts could occur between different factions of qualitative researchers. Conflict is not necessarily bad. It could be good in terms of raising challenges, in terms of innovating. Okay, but the key point is that qualitative research is complex and is characterized by the presence of different paradigms. What is a paradigm? A paradigm is a way of understanding the world and a way of understanding how we should carry out research on this world. Okay, so paradigm has an ontological perspective, a view of the world, and an epistemological perspective, a view on research. These paradigms are basically, well, they could be compared to faith in a given religion, if you want. There are some basic beliefs that inform each paradigm. And philosophers have taught us that we cannot prove, rationally speaking, that one paradigm is superior to another one. Okay, so the different paradigms exist, but none of them is above the others, in spite of the claims made by some people. Okay. Okay, so, and well, basically this paragraph here is the one of the aims that Michael Power and I had when we wrote this. Okay, to provide a kind of roadmap to doctoral students, also for established researchers who were not trained as qualitative researchers, regarding the landscape of qualitative research. What are the different types of qualitative research, in order to make sense of what they read when they start to read qualitative research. We will emphasize this afternoon two of these paradigms. So the positivist paradigm and the interpretive paradigm. I will focus more today on the positivist paradigm, next month on the interpretive paradigm. There's a third paradigm, the critical, which is critical research. It would take me another mini course in order to look at this. So perhaps in 1 year from now, when you have a need for another talk on methods or paradigms, well, just contact me and I will do it again. Okay. Okay. We felt it was important to deconstruct right at the start of this guest editorial some stereotypes against qualitative research. Here's the first stereotype here. Qualitative research is too risky for younger academics, given the constraint of tenure or the difficulties of getting promotion in academia. This is a myth, which is easy to deconstruct. Well, just look at me. I went to the University of Alberta and I got tenure. I was able to publish 3 articles in these top journals, 3 qualitative articles. Qualitative research has a key strength, which is innovation. It's easier to convince reviewers and readers that what I did is new, novel, interesting if I do qualitative research than if I do quantitative research in a conventional way. Also, the competition to access publication in a top journal. There are many quantitative researchers who would like to publish in the same 6 or 7 journals. But the number of qualitative researchers is lower, which means that it's in a way easier to distinguish oneself from the crowd. So this first stereotype is quite easy to dismiss. The second stereotype, I already mentioned it. So qualitative research is not only a precursor of quantitative research. It could be sometimes, but it does not have to be. Okay, so we are able to develop independently from the world of quantitative research. Okay, and the last stereotype, some people view qualitative research as being less serious, less rigorous, more improvised than quantitative research, which is serious work. It's not true. It is as difficult to publish qualitative as it is to publish quantitative research. So all those stereotypes that especially doctoral students and master students hear regarding qualitative research, well, be dubious of these stereotypes. It's easy to deconstruct them. So what I say to the doctoral students and the master students I teach at the graduate level, I say to them, well, make sure to have a good understanding of the different types of accounting or management research. And then you will be able to decide what type of researcher do I want to become. Do I want to become quantitative researchers who will specialize in laboratory experiments, for instance. Or do I want to become a qualitative researcher who will carry out interviews with accounting practitioners? This question is fundamental. It's about identity. What type of researcher do I want to become? And in order to be able to answer that question, you need to have a good understanding of the different types of research that exist. If you are only exposed to quantitative research, then, well, perhaps you will miss a very nice and interesting and fascinating career as qualitative researcher if you don't know that it exists. So it's important that the roadmap we provide, well, could help doctoral students, master students to familiarize themselves with the world of qualitative research, the different types of research, and then make the decision what kind of researcher do I want to become. Okay, this is a fundamental choice, and it should be a choice. Otherwise, it is like imposing a set of beliefs on someone, and you feel you don't have any choice. Okay, so the roadmap is basically expressed through table 1 here. Okay, so differences between positivist and constructivist qualitative research. Constructivist is almost the same as interpretive qualitative research. So, okay, so before I start analyzing these 3 columns, it's important to emphasize that quantitative research, most of it is basically positivist. Okay, so in the domain of quantitative research, most of the research which is done there is positivist. It's more fragmented in the domain of qualitative research, where we have positivist qualitative research, interpretive or constructivist qualitative research, and critical qualitative research. So today we will emphasize this column, positivist spirit. But I will also contrast it to the other extreme, which is constructivist spirit. Okay, so when we developed this table, we felt it would make sense to start with the methodological focus, because for most researchers, it's easier to have a sense of what is positivism and constructivism if we focus on methodology first. Okay, so it's our choice, Mike and I. So in the positivist world, the focus of methods is on breadth, examining a phenomenon using a large sample, a large population. For constructivists, it's the opposite. Okay, so the focus is developing an in-depth understanding. So the focus is depth. Okay, so these are different, just these 2 words, breadth and depth, are meaningful reference in terms of the paradigm of the rest of the 2 paradigms. So breadth means that for the positivist, the world is made up of laws, like in physics, the gravity law, which applies to any human being. So positivists see the social world as being governed by laws. Okay, and these laws have a broad effect. Okay, they do not only affect one individual, they affect all of us. So for instance, in economics, the law of offer and demand. Okay, so when demand goes up and offer stays the same, then the price is going to rise. And okay, so this is claimed to apply to any contemporary society. If given that laws apply extensively to a large category of people, of situations, then it makes sense to capture data from a broad perspective in order to be able to have a sense of the extent to which the law or the theory applies or not to the empirical world. For the constructivist spirit, it's quite the opposite. In order to develop understanding, we believe that the world is very complex, unpredictable, therefore it cannot be understood through laws. What we need instead to do is to develop in-depth understanding, to focus on one or a few cases in order to develop knowledge. Okay, second dimension, analytical emphasis. Okay, so positivists tend to be interested in causality. They will claim that they don't study directly causality, which is fine, but what they analyze typically are relations of cause and effect. Okay, and these cause and effect are basically the outcome of these general laws that I mentioned before. So if laws of cause and effect exist, this means that human behavior is predictable. Okay, so prediction is very important in the positivist world. And researchers will rely on these predictions in order to develop knowledge through what is known as the hypothetical deductive method. So the aim will then to draw on some theory in order to develop hypotheses about the world. And then the researcher will gather data in order to see the extent to which the data is coherent or not with the hypothesis. So this is hypothesis testing. In all this, reality is external to the mind. Okay, so this is a view of an ontological view here about what is social reality. So reality exists outside of us. It's external to the mind. If we have the right devices, we will be able to capture this reality, to develop knowledge on it. If we want this to work, we need to aim for objectivity. Okay, so objectivity is central in this. People who do it in a positivistic way, social science, so basically they try to imitate what takes place in physics, chemistry. So they use the same mindset, the same devices in order to develop knowledge. Flexibility is not very well perceived in the positivist column. Its knowledge aims at empirical generalization. So generalization is a key concern for positivists. And in terms of style of writing, positivists typically aim for concise, I always have difficulty in pronouncing it in English, conciseness. So if it's not obvious to you in Quebec, the first language is French. So that's why I have a French accent. So conciseness, okay. Expressing things with few words. So the less words are found in an article, the better it is, in a way. Okay, so this is a positivist column. The constructivist column is basically the opposite. Okay, so when people engage in constructivist or interpretive research, they believe that causality is not obvious. When we look at the backstage of organizational life, we find that things become messy, complex. So we need other methods to understand reality. And these methods are basically predicated on in-depth understanding. So it means what it means. In-depth means that if I want to better understand the world, I should try to engage deeply with the phenomenon I want to study through one or few or several cases, not hundreds of cases. In the constructivist world, reality is socially constructed. So these two words are important. Reality does not exist purely outside of our mind. It's socially constructed. I don't have the time to engage much in this, but this is a key assumption. Subjectivity is perceived as something good in the interpretive world. Objectivity is impossible in this column. Objectivity is impossible. Subjectivity permeates the process, and subjectivity is indeed an asset for the researcher in the sense that it will allow the researcher to rely on his or her imagination in order to develop new insights about the phenomenon. Flexibility is a hallmark of interpretive research. Okay, so I already provided an example. We could decide to study X, but in the middle of data collection, we change our target and we decide instead to study Y. Generalization is not a concern for the interpretive researcher because each phenomenon is unique, so there is no need to believe or to aim for empirical generalization. Okay, and finally, in terms of the number of words, when one writes a paper, we cannot aim for short articles when we do interpretive research, because we are trying to account for the complexity of real-world phenomena. So we need many words in order to develop knowledge on these phenomena, which is a problem when you want to publish in a journal where there's a word limitation of 7,000 words. Typically, qualitative research, it typically ranges between 12,000 and 20,000 words. It's almost impossible to reach for 7,000 words because as a qualitative researcher, you will probably have gathered lots of data. The world is complex. You need to develop an understanding of the key patterns, of nuances in your data, and you cannot do it. One cannot do it in 7,000 words. Okay, so that's about it for, yeah. Okay, I think I will stop here for power and Gendron because I want to see first of all if there are some questions which have been asked. Sylvia, any question?
Yes, we have some questions and also some comments. And I'm thinking about sharing with you them all, or do you prefer me to share one by one?
One by one.
Okay. So from José Antonio Marcelino, currently in Brazil, it's not easy to publish a qualitative article. It is still necessary transformation. So maybe you could comment on this transformation that you have been witnessing in the changes to having more openness to publish qualitative papers.
Okay, now this is a good question. Even quantitative researchers, most of them, at some point of time, quantitative researchers will realize that their methods have limits on what they can provide as understanding. And it's quite frequent when I talk to a number of quantitative researchers that most of them would like to have been trained to some extent or to have been exposed to qualitative research because they feel constrained in their research, but they don't know how to do it. So it's not that most quantitative researchers are intolerant about qualitative research. My experience indicates that it's more that they are not really aware of what this is. And when they read some qualitative research is difficult to read. So when they try to read one of these complex articles, then they understand not much of it. Okay, so they don't know what to think, and so they're not comfortable with it. Okay, so first thing, so most quantitative research, I think, are sensitive about the need to have a broader perspective on knowledge development. Okay, then as I mentioned, if one has the spirit of a qualitative researcher, well, this person will be very sad if he or she becomes a quantitative researcher, because there will be no much faith involved in what the person is doing. I would advise doctoral students, master students to have an introspection of them, of their inner beliefs. What spirit do you have? If you have the spirit of quantitative researcher, then that's good. Become a quantitative researcher. But if you have the spirit of a qualitative person, which is you like to write, okay, you like to read, you like to read outside of accounting as well, you like to talk to people, you are curious about practice, then it could be that you have the spirit of a qualitative researcher. So then, well, don't become a quantitative researcher. We're talking about you, your life, your career. Okay, also, qualitative research has a key strength, which is innovation. Okay, I think I have published the first qualitative article in AGPT in 2004. Okay, it's not my best article, by the way, because the article got changed significantly as a result of some constraints of the editor and the reviewers. But anyway, that's the first qualitative article is there. So it's feasible to challenge journals. So I sent them, AGPT, I sent them a big paper. It was probably too long, 20,000 words, where I was trying to do two things. First of all, to describe what audit committee members were doing. I was trying to describe and also to theorize in a socially constructed way around it. So I thought perhaps the reviewers of AGPT will like the descriptive stuff, okay, and they will perhaps accept the social theorizing, but well, they did not really enjoy the social theorizing, but the descriptive stuff, yes. So they asked me to rewrite the paper, to revise the paper, making it more descriptive. And so this is what I did. But it was a first step. So quantitative journals or the journals of associations, they need to be tested. So they need to receive qualitative submissions. And one day, well, this is how progress is made, through testing boundaries. And there are indications about that. When you go to a conference, an accounting research conference in Brazil, where there are many quantitative researchers and pockets of qualitative researchers, you're in a parallel session with two other quantitative papers, and then your qualitative paper is there. In the room, there's an associate editor at one of these journals, mostly quantitative, and then, well, the editor at the end of your talk, well, comes to talk to you and says to you, well, you know what, I found it quite interesting. Why don't you submit the paper to our journal? We will see what we can do. And so change can be achieved in such unpredictable small ways. Perhaps I'm too much optimistic here, but at the same time, I have, well, it relates partially to my own experience. Okay, so the question is very good. I could talk for hours about it, but I need to be careful about the time. Okay, so Sylvia, do you have another question?
We have many questions, many questions. So from Pedro Henrique, as qualitative research is flexible and has different approaches to solve the problem being fragmented, as you pointed, how readers can differentiate and evaluate the quality of a qualitative research in order to say, this is good research or this is not good research?
Okay, so this one is easy. Each column of the table I was showing to you implies different quality criteria. Okay, and I will take, well, 10 minutes before we finish to go through Bills et al., and I will highlight a few things that they did very well from a positivist perspective. So each paradigm has its own quality criteria. So if your, let's say, your interpretive paper is evaluated through interpretive criteria, then that's fine. If your interpretive paper is evaluated through positivist criteria, then it will be a mortal rejection. But at the same time, it's an epistemological mistake. If we want to be fair with people, we should evaluate them in accordance with the paradigm where their work is located. Okay, so next question.
So from Paulo Bero Jr., I've been struggling for some time against the label of qualitative research, as I think it is misleading. In my point of view, adopting this label facilitates the job of positivist gatekeepers to prevent the burdens of interpretive and critical research approaches in accounting, at least here in Brazil, as they try to make all qualitative approaches fit positivistic quality criteria. Don't you think we'd be better off if we got rid of this quantitative versus qualitative labeling?
Okay, interesting comment. A number of people, when they refer to interpretive and critical research, they use the wording interdisciplinary accounting research, which means basically interpretive and critical accounting research. But this is a good comment. Naming how we name things is important. It's important for any qualitative researcher, especially. But I agree with you, but in some situations, I still use qualitative, quantitative, because I feel it's more convenient to a number of people, but I agree with you that there are some limitations, important limitations about relying just on the word qualitative and opposing it to quantitative. Things are more complex than that. And perhaps it would be better to talk just about the paradigm. So the positivist or functionalist paradigm, and then the interpretive, and then the critical paradigm, then that would be more, I think, reasonable. But okay, it depends on the different audience, etc. Okay, so Sylvia, next question.
That's from Sandra. I hear obvious and related to reason, as if there was only one right way to see, do, and read, etc. It has become conventional to value reason and logic as correct and good, perhaps opening up to understand emotions and how they contribute to individual and collective evaluations will enable people to do a more engaged research. Considering events in an extensive way, how do you evaluate the judgment of peers? Is it possible to create awareness of gatekeepers in this sense?
Okay, great question. As editor, we always risk to reject the paper which could have become a very good article. So what I try to do, I try to select reviewers who I think are fair, but it's inevitable that we all have our biases, unconscious biases, and I'm subject to that as well. When one wants to publish an article about a topic which is not very well known for the typical readership of the journal, or when one wants to rely on a kind of methods which is not very well known to the readership of the journal, then this person should try to develop some pedagogical paragraphs in order to explain in simple words why does it matter, why it's important to look at things this way, in order to reduce the likelihood that the paper will be rejected because people don't understand what the person is trying to do. So I think it applies to any kind of innovation, trying to explain trying to explain difference, trying to convince someone that there are other ways of looking at the world, there are other ways of doing research, etc. So I don't think I answered quite well, but that under the I'm not very good at improvising. Under the circumstances, it's, well, the best I can do.
Steve, I have a proposal for you because we have many questions and I know that you want to talk about the second paper. Maybe we can share with you those questions. We are taking notes of them all and send to you for our second session. What do you think?
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so because we need to finish by 4:30 your time.
4:30, yes.
Okay,
exactly.
so we have 13 minutes. Okay, so I will skim through Bill's et al. Okay, and then we will get back to a number of questions. Okay, so I will share my screen. Okay, this one. Okay, and whoops, sorry, I did something wrong. Okay, so this will be better. Okay, so I will try to share again. So Zoom is not that convivial. Every time I teach my students here, I make a few mistakes in terms of sharing screen. Okay, so so this is Bill's et al. It's a positivist qualitative study, and this is one of the best I have seen, okay, in the last few years. I know the paper but basically I have accepted that paper at Contemporary Accounting Research. Okay, but the first version of the paper was already quite strong. This is a very good illustration of positivist qualitative research at its best. Okay, and I'm saying it, in order to say that, I need to have positivist criteria in mind, because if I look at it from the viewpoint of interpretive research, then it's not so good. But through positivist eyes, this is really good, really, really good. Okay, So in the abstract, we have the basic storyline of the paper. Okay, so the key findings, if you want. Okay, so it's I presume that people at least skimmed through that. Okay, what I want to do, given that I don't have much time, I want to emphasize some positivist features of that paper, okay, which can be easily spotted. Well, as a matter of fact, just in the title. Okay, collaborating with competitors, how do small firm accounting associations and networks successfully manage competitors? Just looking at the word successfully here in the title, it tells me it's likely to be a positivist study. Success exists, it's outside of us. There are criteria to decide what is success, what is not success. There are recipes for success. And in a way, their paper aims to explore recipes in order for these organizations to become successful. Okay, and this recipe is made up of some ingredients which are called transactional mechanisms and relational mechanisms. Okay, and another sentence which indicates to me this is positivist research. One of our main conclusions is that these mechanisms contribute to AAN success. So success is outside of us. It's not something which is perceptual. It's something which is obvious, success. All of us would be able to look at this organization and say, okay, so this one is successful. Okay, so contribute to AAN success because they are leveraged, blah, blah, blah. Okay, there are different cycle, phase, etc. Okay, but by the way, okay, there are indications of positivism here, but it's a very nice way of framing one's contribution in a positivist way. Okay, some other indication. This study explores, the word exploring, positivist researchers like this. I tend to avoid it, okay, because what I do as research is interpretive or critical research. I don't do positivist research. So the word explore is in the indication to gain an understanding of the mechanisms, the recipe is there, the mechanisms that allow firms to successfully manage a paradox. Okay, so this is another strong indication of positivism. The world exists outside of us. It is made up of causal relationship. There's causality here, mechanisms that allow firms to successfully manage. So mechanisms, management, success. Okay, so there's a direct arrow which is there. Okay, again, if it's not clear, it should become clear eventually. We seek to understand the mechanisms used to manage blah, 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 leading to AAN success again. Okay, then they added this sentence here, but it's me basically who told them that they should be more nuanced regarding what is success and what is not success. But in the first version, it was not there. Okay, so it's important to recognize that the notion of success is convoluted, varies over time. Okay, another, well, you see key indicators, so it belongs to the vocabulary of positivist researchers. In terms of data collection, they did really well. 42 accounting partners. It's really, in terms of data collection, it's really a great study. They relied on a theory in order to inform their research. Okay, but they did it in a kind of deductive way. When we look at the method section, so basically they have identified the theory almost at the start of their study. Okay, and then they analyzed the data in accordance with the theory. In a way, it's a kind of hypothesis testing. They rely on words such as, a little later, we expect, blah, blah, blah. Expecting is a kind of hypothesis. So the study is not directly framed as hypothesis testing, but implicitly, hypothesis testing is not that far away from what they do. Okay, okay, let me try to see. Okay. Okay, so this is an important paragraph in the sense that it's not positivism here. It's to say to CAR, the journal CAR, hey, there is something special about accounting in our data. Okay, and this is what they do here. So CAR is an accounting journal, so it's always good if you study something saying that, hey, there's something special about accounting in our data, in our findings. Okay. Okay, you see here, there are some indications of hypothesis testing. We predict, prior research predicts that. As an interpretive researcher, I would never use that word. Okay, but they do, and it's normal that they do it because it's part of the core of their paradigm. Okay, so prediction exists for positivists. So we predict that blah, blah, blah. Okay, in terms of contributions, by providing evidence on the mechanisms that allow firms to, so it's still the same frame in a way. Okay, they care about practice. Okay, they try to interpret the findings to say to practitioners, hey, there's something for you in our research. Okay, the assumption is that the knowledge they develop applies necessarily, can be used by practitioners to help them to have more success in a way. As an interpretive researcher, I would be very careful to say to researchers, to say to practitioners, well, my results are interesting for you because of this and that. Okay, so there's another paradigmatic difference here. Okay, and then I'm looking at the time, 28. Just in terms of methods. Okay, sampling strategy, sampling. Okay, as an interpretive researcher, I would not use that word, but they do. They are interested in generalization, these ideas. So it's quite usual to see the word sampling there. Okay, and then they talk about, okay, to reduce the chance of collecting biased extreme views, our sample, again. Okay, so they had the idea of testing, in a way, testing right from the start, early on. we identified competition theory as a relevant lens. And finally, so the coder agreement. Okay, so this is a very important step of an assurance mechanism for positivists, that two different researchers coded the data. The idea being that they are able to code the same way. And it's good when they do it the same way. And they are able to get a statistic. So here, 64% of the time, they found the same codes. Okay, as an interpretive researcher, we never do it because each person, the word is so complex that a given sentence, an interview excerpt, if I read it, well, my interpretation could be quite different from yours. So it doesn't make sense to have an intercoder reliability agreement. Okay, and finally, they rely on a very positivist reference here, methods. Yin is a recognized methodologist, but he's a positivist one. Okay. So this is an example, in conclusion, this is an example, a very good illustration of positivist qualitative research, which is carried out elegantly in accordance with the norms of the positivist paradigm. So the two reviewers were very receptive to what they did, and I was receptive as well. If I do efforts for this, but I try to change my lenses, adopt positivist lens, and when I read that paper, I say, "Oh wow, this is a very profound, a very nice way of doing positivist qualitative research." Okay, so I will stop sharing. Okay, so I'm coming back. So it's now 4:32 or 3:42 my time. So what do you want me to do now, Sylvia? Well, I could continue for a few minutes if you want, answering questions, or if you prefer, we stop now. So it's up to you.
Maybe it would be better to stop now, finish our first session. We have many good questions that will forward to you, but we are also worried about our translators, Luis and Walter. They are translating you to Portuguese and to Spanish. So if we are sometimes tired of being in Zoom, imagine them then are also doing all the translation. So I wanted to just say to everyone that we have our second session, June 16. We have also our Google Classroom. Please take a look at our Google Classroom. You can send also questions to Professor Gendron through our Google Classroom. And you can exchange messages between you all. So we are trying to build a community. It will be great for people to engage with each other. And I want again to say merci beaucoup, Yves Gendron, for this wonderful first session. I'm seeing people engaging and sending questions and sharing ideas. So thank you to you also. Just because of my worry with the translators, I will ask you to end this first session, waiting for our second meeting.
Okay, this is great. So the second meeting, I will take more time to answer questions. We will have 90 minutes. I will go through Genre and Spira for maybe 20 minutes, and then I will answer lots of questions. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time, by the way.
Thank you very much, Evie. Thank you all, and see you next month.
Yes. Okay. So have a good day. Bye-bye.